Good evening, viewers. Tonight we have our guests, a man with the same name twice, Odak, Richard. He is the CEO of Koba Capital. Tonight, as we continue with our Opportunity Wednesday, tapping into different potentials of young adults who are venturing into different business opportunities. We want to interact with the CEO of Koba Capital, who will share his what he's doing and how is it beneficial to the youth and any other Kenyan that may be interested in the credit facility. So as we had indicated, kindly mute first. I'm seeing some echo. So as we had indicated, our topic today, let me just highlight it, is building SME through credit facility. I will run a tagline that captures what we are saying. Youth as change makers is the topic, then building SME through credit facility. Our guest is Richard Odak, as I've said. He's the CEO of Koba Capital. So you're welcome. Richard, maybe you can briefly tell us what is Koba Capital.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Kesa, for this invitation and also for welcoming me to this particular discussion point. I'm glad to be here. Let me start by introducing myself again. My name is Odak Richard. I'm the CEO of Koba Capital. Koba Capital is a microfinance institution, which is a credit-only financial institution that advances facilities, loan facilities to different business people, majorly, though occasionally we also give loans to salaried people. What we are doing is that we are targeting those who are in need of what is called bridging finance, possibly that someone is having an activity that is going on or a business opportunity that they've seen that they want to take advantage of. So we want to bridge that gap, that you have an opportunity that you want to take advantage of and you don't have the right financing, or you don't have the kind of facility that you need within a short time or within a quick time. So our turnaround is quite fast. Our slogan is actually called convenient credit, because we give the turnaround period is quite short. It ranges between 6 hours and up to even 48 hours. So it's a very short time. So we give that bridging finance to mostly business people or those who want to cover emergencies that they need to take care of urgently. And that's what we do majorly. Koba Capital is an institution that was started in 2018. That's when we opened our doors. We are based at Vision Plaza, Mombasa Road. But we have a couple of activities, mostly in the east side of Nairobi. We have activities going on in Umoja, in Kayole, in Dandora, in Utawala, in Bypass, and all those areas in Komba. We have a couple of clients in very many areas within Nairobi that we are servicing regularly, that should they get into in need of bridging finance, then we can be able to support them. Personally, I've been in this field for quite a while. I've worked in a couple of institutions and places as well. I've been in 7 or so different African countries. I was in South Sudan, I've been in Liberia, in in Sierra Leone. I've been in Ghana. I've been in Uganda and Rwanda as well. So we have a bit of experience in terms of working with the micro enterprises and also with SMEs as well. You know, there is a small difference between micro and then the SMEs. So that is briefly what we do and who I am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that brief introduction. I believe we have now captured what Koba Capital is all about. Maybe I wanted to ask you a few questions that are in line with the credit facilities. One of the things that most people have a problem with a credit facility is affordability. So how different is Koba Capital? Are your credit facilities affordable? What are your market rates?
Thank you for that important question. One of the things that we look for in terms of advancing credit facility is sometimes not necessarily at the affordability, but mostly the convenience in terms of how soon can I be able to meet the target that I have in terms of having funds to be able to finance a business opportunity that I have. But I can give you a general overview of the kind of interest rates if you want to know that about not necessarily what Koba Capital does, but what the general market rates are for the different financial institutions. I think the lowest priced loan or credit facility that we have in the market is probably those who are banking with the SACCOs. That is the savings and credit cooperatives, because it is at 1% per annum on reducing balance. So 1% per annum on reducing balance will really tell you that it's about 6.5 or 6.7% per annum on a flat rate basis. That is fairly low, but there are also a lot of conditions. For example, you have to be a member of a cooperative society for about 6 months before you can be able to get a loan. You have to be consistent saver. You have to get guarantors. So there are all those things that come with that kind of flexibility in terms of the loan that you will get will be low priced, but there are also a lot of conditions that will be attached to for you to get that loan. For example, you have to wait for the 6 months, and some of the cooperatives ensure that you get guarantors who have good standing within the SACCO, as well as you getting a third, or most of the times they make it times 4. That means you get 25% of the you have to save 25% for you to be able to get that loan. For example, if someone is looking for a loan of 100,000, they have to raise 25,000 before they are given a loan. So that is already some cost to you that you'll be able to look at. So the interest rate though is low, but there are a lot of other conditions that you need to look for. And it's something that I'd want anyone who is planning to start a business, you need to start with the ones that will not give you a lot of stress. For example, the SACCO loans, their repayment period is also very long. Some of them going even up to 48 months or even up to 72 months. So that will give you a longer period to repay. So it is fairly easy on your pocket. So if you want to get a loan to start a business with, or you are still at a low stage of your business, then that is probably the kind of loan that you need to go for. The second category of loans is mostly the bank loans. The bank loans, they are mostly based on the central bank rate, which is reviewed regularly. And I think the last time they reviewed it in July this year was at 7%. So then they load up their costs on that. It can go even up to 10% or 12%. I think the average right now for most of the banks is around 12 and 14% per annum. There's a time the bank loans had hit a roof, I think sometime in the mid-90s, that it reached, I think, around 33 or 35%. That was the highest that we have ever seen in this country, though there are other places that is still high, because I remember, I think 3 or 4 years ago in Ghana, the bank rate was around 33%. Our rate now is between 12 and 14%. Of course, the slightly more credit, more riskier clients are charged about up to around 16%, but the average is about 12 to 14%. So with that, you can be able to get a facility, but there's also a lot of conditions that go with the bank loans. The most important thing for the bank loan is mostly two things about your cash flows and also your collateral, the security that you'll be able to provide for you to access the bank loan. That really puts off a lot of people, because if you fail to pay even by one day, or even if you don't go to negotiate for the loans or reschedule the loans, then of course you are at a risk of losing your collateral. And of course, there are a lot of things that they look at. Their systems are fairly well organized, and then they'll charge you between 12 and 15%. Then the next level is about what is called the deposit-taking microfinance institutions. That one I'm talking about institutions like Faulu Kenya or Rafiki Microfinance, that have a slightly higher rate, because the higher interest rate, but they're slightly more flexible. They'll charge you between 25 and 33% per annum. Mostly the repayments are done on a weekly basis. And of course, you have to there's some of them that require you to be in groups, like the ones in Faulu, not Faulu, the ones in Kenya Women require you have to be in a group and all that. So they're all that. Then of course, then there is where Koba Capital comes in, what is called the credit-only microfinance institutions that charge slightly higher. Some of them charge between 20% per annum to, it can even go up to about 50% per annum, based on the other risks that are there, because of the facilities that they provide require that You have the convenience, which is a cost, the convenience, because we're taking a very short time to process and give you the money. Then we also look at the other things that are at the end rather than the beginning. The end in terms of the kind of business that you're having should be able to generate for you the money. So I'm not looking at you right now as what you have and what you can be able to give me in terms of the collaterals and other things. Most of these have a more flexible collaterals, more flexible requirements. Though there are some of them that insist on the logbooks, that you need to have a logbook to be able to access a facility. Even for us, we have a requirement for logbook for certain laws, which those are slightly low priced loans. But we also look at the end that whatever activity that you're going to do is that which will be able to generate for you an income that will be able to sustain you, but also pay us back our money plus the loaded interest on top. For example, if you are looking for a facility that you have an opportunity you've seen that can generate for you, it's 100,000 that you're looking for, and it can generate for you around 20,000, and it's maybe supplies or an LPO that you need to fulfill, then this will generate for you 20 or 30,000. Then of course we look at the end and say, okay, how long will it take for you to be able to get that contract done or that LPO honored? Then for you to be able to get your money, then we load our interest on top of that. I think that is how we normally work in terms of the affordability. So I've mentioned the three different. Of course, there is the most expensive is the mobile loans. That is the last category that I'd want to mention. If you look at Mshwari, for example, I think at 8% or something like that, KCB 8 or 9%, KCB and Mshwari, KCB and Pesa almost a similar percentage. There are some of them that charge even up to 10% per month. So those ones are slightly more expensive, but the drawback is that, okay, the good thing is that it's very convenient. In the next 5 minutes or 2 minutes, I can be able to access the loan. But the problem is that the facility might be a much lower amount that I probably want. For example, there are very few people who will be able to get mobile loan facilities of 100,000. I think most of them are just for short-term consumer products that you'd want to buy, rather than for you to do some more development or business-minded facility. Because I think maybe you'd want to get 5,000. 5,000 might do for you something, but not so much, or 10,000. And those that you graduate and they look a lot of things. I think they are the analyticals at the back of the system really does a lot of analysis to be able to put you where you actually belong in terms of how much you can be able to be given for your facility. And then the repayment dates are normally 30 days. There are a few of them that go beyond 30 days, but mostly they are 30 days, and with maybe once or twice to be rolled over. So you can only roll over once or twice, but after that, I think you are already in bad books. So those are the three categories that I wanted to mention. So if it is at 10% per annum, per month, then that would come to around 120% per annum. Some of them even go beyond that. So I've just given the brief overview of the different categories of the loans that are available in the market, then the requirements that they probably could have for everything to go as expected. Thank you.
Okay, I think you have captured quite a number of things that I wanted to highlight, but however, we will highlight even as we continue. The next question I wanted to ask you, because though you have touched on it, but I wanted you to talk a bit on it extensively in terms of credit worthiness. So what are considerations for somebody to be given a loan from Koba Capital?
Thank you very much for that question. Actually, one of the things that if anyone wants a facility with any financial institution, you need to be sure that you are creditworthy. And creditworthy does not just mean that you appear there with your ID and your KRA PIN. No, not at all. That is just one of the things we call KYC, the know your customer requirements, because we want to understand you better. We want to know you better. There are certain things that will make one creditworthy. One of them is we look at your credit history. So how is your credit history been like? Are you someone who, when given a facility, you take so long to pay? Even if you pay it back, you take so long to pay. So the period that to be able to make the payments really, really matters. And also, if you paid on time, that really matters. So the main tool for assessment for this is mostly through the CRB reports. That's the Credit Reference Bureau reports. In Kenya, there are 3 licensed credit reference bureaus. I think there's one trading as TransUnion, then there is Credit Info, then there is Metropole. So each one of them will give a score. And the score is actually explained through a lot of variables. Some of the things I've already mentioned, for example, the kind of facilities you've had in the last 5 or 10 years, how did you behave with those facilities? For example, you took a bank loan. Did you pay it on time or did you not? If you paid on time, then you have a more positive score. So, for example, if I can use the scores for Metropole, someone who has above 700 is a fairly good client. If you have 200, I think is the lowest, if I'm not wrong. So if you have a score of 200, that means there are a few things that were not right in terms of your credit history. One of them is that you always repaid late, or you always paid late, or you never completed some of the payments. I think the worst case is that some of the payments were not completed, and then the companies have now listed you. The companies that gave you the facility have listed you as a bad loanee. So those are the things that someone needs to look at. You need to make sure that anytime you take a facility, you repay on time. Or if you don't repay on time, then if you can't repay on time, then please talk to the financial so that they can be able to reschedule the loan. So if you reschedule the loan, that you are still given more time so that the loan can still be considered as a good loan, because they're giving you, because I think during the COVID period, most of the institutions were granting 60 days or 90 days for you to have slightly more days for repayment. With that, you can be sure that you can be able to make sure that your credit history is good. The other thing about the creditworthiness is about the collateral that you have. What is it that you're bringing? You know, this is money that we are trading. So you have to give up something, just as I am giving up the money that I'm giving out. So what are you giving up in terms of the collateral? What kind of security do you have for the facility? Should the worst comes to the worst, is that security able to cover for the loan? Because we don't say that all the times that everyone will pay on time, or everything will go on as planned. Sometimes things just don't work out as we planned. Sometimes I've already planned that I'm going from here to Nakuru in the next 2 hours or 3 hours. Then something comes up in Naivasha and I end up spending a night in Naivasha. So sometimes things don't work out. And then there is no way I can be able to repay that money at all, apart from the security that I've already pledged. So if your security, especially the fast moving securities, then that is something that we'll really consider, especially if it's a vehicle which is of good value and has a high resale value, then that is something that will give you a plus in terms of the collateral that you have. The other thing that we're looking at also is someone who has a good creditworthiness is we look at the capacity of the person. For example, if you're doing a project worth 1 million, and you come for us, as I mentioned, most of our funds is mostly on bridging finance, and you come to us, of course, you've done other projects, we've assessed you, everything is okay. The only thing is that your project is worth 1 million and you're looking for 1 million from us. I think that is showing that it is us whose money will totally be exposed to that particular project. Normally, the banks or even financial institutions like us look at the kind of mix where your own contribution is about 50% of the money that is supposed to be used there. So what is the capacity? What have you contributed? What is your own contribution? How much are you contributing towards the loan? Then for you as a person, have you handled about 1 million shillings before? That's why we look at the bank statements, or we look at the M-Pesa statements. If you look at your bank statement and we see that the last 6 months, the average transactions in and out of your account has been about 5 million, then I can be very comfortable giving you 1 million shillings, because I know that this is something that you regularly operate with. But if your transactions the last 6 months, the average per month has been 1 million, apart from maybe one-off, maybe you did some transaction with CDF and you got 5 million, it was a one-off. There's no other transaction in your account for the last 6 months. Then that shows us probably you don't have an active business that you can be able to work with. So one of the things I advise people who are in business, make sure your account is always active. Even if we do the average, but we see that your account is always, bank account is always active. Or if you are going to use M-Pesa, make sure your M-Pesa statement is very active. For us now, we have software that is doing the analysis on M-Pesa statements. So if you bring your M-Pesa statement, even the bank statement, they do the analysis for. So it will be able to pick up certain things about you. It is part of the know your customers, but also part of understanding the client better in terms of their capacity and their cash flow. We look at the capacity in terms of the average that you have in the month, the kind of projects that you have, and the kind of transactions that you've been having in your in your account. For example, you are looking for 100,000 or 500,000, but we are looking at your M-Pesa statements. Your bank statements probably didn't give us that information because probably you're not using the bank so much, because most of your clients pay through M-Pesa, and you also make payments through M-Pesa. So it's your phone that has been doing a lot of the transactions. That's why we use the M-Pesa analysis report to give us a bit of more information about your activities. So if at the end of the day we find out that though you've been doing a lot of trade on your M-Pesa, but most of your money is going to Betway or SportPesa or that, then that is probably not a very good indication that your credit worthiness is on the positive side, because you're using most of the money for gambling, and gambling is not a very it's still, people still do it, but it will not show on a positive side on side of your analysis. But if you also find that part of your money that you've generated from your business, you are sending some money to some SACCO or some insurance, that means you're also a saver. So out of the money that you're generating from your business, you are also putting some money aside for any eventuality, because SACCO is part of security for you. If your business comes to some handling, sometime you can borrow some money from a SACCO or something, then that is a very positive indication that someone is preparing for the future. You're putting some money for the SACCO, or you have some insurance policy that you're having, or you have some investment at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. There is a bit of your money going to other things which are going to build you in future, rather than looking at the present. So there is a lot of all that we look at. Maybe I've mentioned a lot of things, but those are the things that I could be able to think of at the moment. Thank you.
So in other words, when I'm, nowadays we have so many online credit facilities, and most people they access those credit facilities. If my history shows that I've been accessing those credit facilities, or for example, let me just come direct. If you check at my M-Pesa, I've been doing Fuliza, and every time I do Fuliza, I'm doing it in a supermarket. So you can easily detect that I'm a consumer, a kind of person rather than an investor. So I may not qualify for a loan if I want to do business.
No, you will qualify, because Fuliza is mostly for is actually an overdraft. So that means maybe at that particular time you didn't have enough funds for that. But if I see your Fuliza statement, the M-Pesa statement, the way it is arranged, so I see that you Fuliza, then you've paid maybe say Tumaini supermarket or Quickmark supermarket. Then the next transaction I'm seeing there is maybe some betting company. Then that shows that you've actually borrowed money to put in some gambling activity. But if just borrowing for shopping, that should be fine. But if I'll also look at the overall transactions that you've had, such that it's not like every other day that you are in Fuliza, not every 2-3 days you are in Fuliza. So that would also show us a positive way, because someone can be able to borrow from Fuliza, or you can be able to get the mobile apps. You can get Timiza of Barclays, or you can get KCB M-Pesa, or you can get Branch or Tala. Occasionally, all of us get into that situation. But you also want to look at the history. If you took a Fuliza, how long did it take you to pay that money? Is it within the agreed period, or it is outside the agreed period? Or if you took a Tala loan, or you took a Timiza loan, how long did it take you to pay that? Because most of them are 30 days. So if you repaid within 30 days and you look at the other transactions, then you still qualify for a loan. I think they don't matter much. The only thing why they matter is whether you actually took it and then you were able to make the repayment. But as I said again, if you always borrow for consumption, then there is that temptation that anytime you see something that is good for you, good for the eyes, something that you want, not really something that you need, then you will always get to your Fuliza to be in overdraft. So it's not good to be in debt for something that you could avoid. So let us also try as much as possible not to get into debt because it is easily available, but let us get into debt for something that will really generate something positive for us, or something that will build our portfolio. I mean, something that will be able to move you one step further, rather than just getting it only for consumption. Maybe consumption once in a while, but it should not be something which is very regular.
Oh, thank you for that. Part B of the same question on credit worthiness, you have dealt with maybe the financial history. Let's talk about the credit worthiness of the business itself. Do you assess the viability of a business before you give credit?
Certainly, we do. When you're running a business, we actually want to look at the history of the business. One of the things that we look at is that the business should be registered, which is quite important. Um, the business should be licensed, which is quite important as well. So let me just explain the difference between the two. Registration of the business, mostly people register them as a partnership or a sole proprietorship or a limited liability company. So that will give like the business name. So how are you trading? Which format are you trading? Because there are also those legal requirements. For example, if you're trading as a limited liability company, then the liabilities are just limited to the company itself. But if it's a sole proprietorship, then should the company fail to meet some of its obligation, then we can come for you as a person. Then we also look at the license. Are you given a license to trade or to operate? Uh, this one is something that you would want to look at. For example, in Nairobi, there is the Nairobi City Council, Nairobi City Government issuing out the single trading permit. So that would also show us that if we come tomorrow, if we've given you our money, if you come tomorrow, then your business will still be there. So you don't have to be worried of the city council as carries taking out everything that you have. So at least your business should be more, even if it's movable, but you have your license. I can see even within the city center, the shoe shiners have their license. There are a lot of people who have their licenses. So we can still be able to trade with that because you have a license that allows you to operate and do that particular trade within a particular jurisdiction. Then the other thing we also look at is that you need to be in a more permanent place. A more permanent place in the sense that I don't want to come tomorrow. You have everything else, but then I don't want to come tomorrow. Then I start looking for you. You are here in Gikomba today. Tomorrow you are in Jiru. We want to see if you are in Jiru at least for the next 1 year or the next 6 months. You are in Jiru, so that when I come and trade, because we also want to build people so that they can also build regular loyal customers. If you are one who moves a lot, then that becomes a bit of a drawback, especially for those who are selling products that need you to be in a fixed place. It's different for those who are doing online business, because there are a lot of people who are, I think since the corona times, the increase in online businesses have really gone up. It's a bit different for those cases, because those are a bit unique and they're the modern kind of businesses that we really need to see how to work with in terms of giving them credit. But when you're looking at a business, we look at the history of the business, as I've mentioned. Is it registered? Is it licensed? Is it in a fixed place? Or do you have kind of a license or a lease agreement with the owner of the property? Or if it is your own property, then how is the ownership issue and all that? So that is now about the business, how is existing and all that. But we also look at the cash flow of the business. So there is the business, how much the business has been generating. So we want to see that if your business has been making any progress, does it have any assets? For example, you could be, I could be trading. For example, I'm doing bringing waru from Narok to Nairobi, and I've been doing this for the last 15 years. And so far, there is nothing that I can show for it. Yet, any person would want to see that there is progress. If I've been doing waru from Narok to Nairobi the last 15 years, maybe through this period, I could have saved something small or even got some facility to be able to get my own pickup, so that during this period, I can use my own pickup to get the potatoes from Narok to Nairobi. Or if I'm doing some other kind of business, something to be able to show that the business is actually growing. You started small, but there is some evidence of growth. The evidence of growth would be shown by the business assets. In addition to that, it could also be shown by the income statement. The income statement we can be able to get from the transactions, from the bank statements and all that. So that will actually show us whether the business is actually on the positive territory or not. Because you could even have a business which is generating so much for you, yet it is just on paper. There is no asset that it has for you. It has not bought for you a house. It has not bought for you a car. It has not bought for you anything. I mean, a business asset that you can be able to think of. you can be trading in cereals, but I want to see if maybe you've traded cereals for the last 3 or 5 years. Now you own your own portion mill, or you own your own something. I mean, something beyond, something that can be tangible, that your business can be able to generate for you. Or now you have an insurance, or now you registered for pension. Something that is not just the kind of regular things that you do, even if you are an SME, but beyond the ordinary that we have, that will show us now the creditworthiness of a business.
Yeah, thank you so much to our viewers. I will encourage you to ask questions concerning the credit facilities. Our guest will be able to answer some of your questions at the comment section. Thank you. Keep making comments. I can see we have quite a number of comments. We are encouraged by that. The next issue is to do with accessibility. How accessible are you guys? Because maybe not many people know you. So where are you? How do we access you? Maybe are you online? Are you, yeah, just share that information and let's understand.
Thanks very much. We are online. We have a full online presence. We have a Twitter handle that is Koba Capital, at Koba Capital. We are on Facebook, at least on the social media platforms. We are on Facebook at Koba Capital Ltd. That is limited, Koba Capital Limited. So you'll see us, the activities that we do. We are also on LinkedIn, so you can be able to see us at Koba Capital. Our phone numbers are also indicated there. And as I mentioned, our physical office location is at Vision Plaza, Mombasa Road. So you can easily access us either through phone. Actually, we encourage people, because of these COVID times, I think we encourage more people to make inquiries on phone or on email or through the social media platforms before coming to the office. If you come to the office, I think that will be based on the advice that you'll be given from our officers. We also have our website, kobacapital.co.ke. You can be able to access that as well. But I wanted to mention again about the accessibility. Most of the financial institutions like us are fully online, and there are also others that also offer a lot of their products on mobile. We are yet to get to the mobile one. I think in the next 3 or 4 months, we'll be able to offer some of our products on mobile as well. So you can be able to just fill in the things, the forms and everything online. Then we can be able to make the assessments through our assessments from from the back office. Then you can be able to process, but not all the products will be on that platform, especially for the low amounts, especially someone who needs a slightly low amount, because at the moment our lowest amount is 10,000. The maximum can go even up to 1 million or even 2 million. But for someone looking for 10,000, we just want to save those who are looking between 10 and 50,000, save them the hassle of having to come to the office, filling a lot of forms, a lot of those things. So we'll want to work on that to be on online. Or at the moment, most of it is done because of our officers are out in the field regularly. You'll see them, of course, because we work with especially those below 50,000, they have to have a network of group of friends or those in a chama and all that. So you can still be able to contact us if you have a group or a chama and there's one of your members is in need of a loan, then you can be able to have a few trainings with you, then you can be able to access our facilities. But that one requires that our officer will visit you at your site, or at your businesses. Thank you.
Okay, so that's about accessibility. Thank you so much for the information. Now, how do you guys handle loan defaulters? Do we expect surprises? We have seen many people manhandled in issues to do with loan defaulting. So are there formal ways you follow, or you do anything as long as you want to get back your money?
That's a very interesting comment and question. Many people, I think that is the worst thing for any financial, and also that is the worst thing for anyone who has taken a facility or a loan. You always think that, the worst that could happen is when you are auctioned in a very bad way, when people come and take everything, or as some people say, they even come and remove your roof. What we are looking at is a due process that needs to be followed. We need to give the requisite notice period. In fact, our process is very clear. When we're doing our training or when we are discussing with the clients, we tell them that, okay, this facility is for this period. Should you encounter any challenges in terms of repayments on the monthly or those who are doing weekly repayments, please let us know in time. So for the weekly repayments, especially those who are doing the regular market trading, our officers are always available. They can be able to come and talk to you. If there is anything that they can be able to advise on, they'll be able to advise. But it also means then that our officers are also well versed in terms of the environment or the situation in which each of our clients could find themselves into. So we understand a bit of the market dynamics. Officers understand a bit of the market dynamics so that before you even tell them that this is the situation on the ground, why I'm late in my payment, there are some of the situations which are more general that they'll probably understand and get to know that actually that is the real situation out there. For example, the time that there was Corona, I think then there's the issue of the curfew and also the cessation of movement, we knew a lot of disruption of the supply chain. So because of that disruption of the supply chain, there are those who are getting a lot of their products from out of Nairobi that we understood that a lot of that disruption caused them not to sell on time as they expected and also to pay us back money as expected. So when someone comes with that kind of genuine reason, then we also always make sure that we make it more flexible for them to make the repayments on time. But if someone defaults and we know very well that everything is going on well, it's just that this person does not want to pay back the money, we still follow the due process. We give them the requisite notices. Then after the notices, we give them another period of notices. Then of course, we refer this to a debt collector. Then after the debt collector, that is when it goes to an auctioneer. So it's a lot of process, but we also want to say that because we still value our customers and we want to keep them in business, there are those customers which will do everything for because of maybe the way they handle their first loans or second loans or how they handled us before, or the way they've already cooperated with us or the way they communicate back to us, then that will be someone we really want to keep so that we can get more business from that person or their referrals in future. But also there are some clients whom you just want to close the chapter and then you just move forward. We don't want to get a lot of those clients. In fact, it is our hope that you don't get any of them. But there's sometimes the situation would force you to say, okay, for this particular client, let us just close the account, close the chapter, and then we just move forward.
Okay, you're finished on something I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you that in the books of accounts, there are those we call bad debts that are written off. So are there loans that you write off? You've answered badly, but you can still
Yeah, you know when okay, we you know in practice we should not be giving clients room to say, okay, oh, you write that one off, because every money should be collected back. What we always believe in terms of if anyone is in the financial sector, any money you give out should come back. Any money you give out should come back, and it should come back with some small interest on top, as is the practice. But there are also those cases where you know very well that whatever effort that you put in, the money will probably not be collected. That's why even for the KRA guidelines, KRA has given us also guidelines on what is acceptable as a loan that can be written off. Because if it's a bad rate written off, it's a direct expense. That means you are allowed to claim that from the profit and it is allowed for tax purposes. But if you have not written off, of course, you can only do it at a provision. You can only make a provision, but provisions are not allowed for tax purposes. So KRA is very clear on what kind of loans can be written off or can be described as written off. And so we use their guidelines and also use the guidelines that are there on the Microfinance Act. Some of these loans are, for example, the ones that we've made all reasonable efforts to collect and still remains uncollectible. Why am I talking about that particular quote? There are certain loans. For example, I gave you a loan for 6 months and it's taken now 2 years. We've made all the efforts. We've done the letters. We visited your place. We've done everything that we could to get this money back, but it has not come back. So 2 years down the line, then you can make a decision as a board and say this particular loan can be written off. But that does not mean that we'll stop pursuing that particular loan. We'll still pursue it up to the end, but in our books, so that to make sure that we don't put much more effort on loan which is already more than 2 years. And of course, for example, let me give you an example of one situation where I'd encountered some time back in another organization where we found out that a particular lady was given a loan. This is in one of the islands in Lake Victoria, was given a loan, and she didn't provide much security, but of course there were guarantors for that particular loan. But we said we didn't want to bother the guarantors. The guarantors are the ones who actually asked us if you can be able to talk to her personally. So when we went to her home, she had a loan of about 200,000. So when we went to her home and we saw the kind of things which are there in the home, even if we took all the mabatis on the roof, we took all the poles for the house, we took even the mud that is on the house and the 2 goats that were outside, it would still not even add up to 100,000. So at that point, you realize that it will be very difficult to collect this particular loan. The guarantors had already given us indication that it was going to be difficult, but we knew very well that this was going to be a very difficult loan to collect. So what we did was to make a decision that we'll only collect the money from the guarantors, but then for her, there'll be nothing else to collect, because even if we sold the goats, because we sold some of the goats, there was nothing more. There was still a balance of around 70,000. So at that point, you say, okay, the remaining 70,000 is probably not going to be collectible in the next 1 or 2 years, or even for the next 5 years. So let's put it as a bad debt, but we'll still make an effort for her to be able to pay kidogo kidogo, so that eventually this loan can be settled in full. Thank you.
Okay, now this question is about the operative environment.
Yes.
What are the constraints your company is facing in this business environment, maybe from the government or just generally the business environment? The constraints.
Thanks a lot for that. I think for companies like us, there are a lot of things that we need to discuss and talk about. One of them is, okay, the kind of the constraint, of course, the regulatory environment. I can start with that. As I mentioned earlier on, in terms of the structure of the financial system in Kenya, there are those which are regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya, which is the banks, and also the deposit-taking microfinance institutions. Those are the big microfinances. Of course, there is the Faulu, Kenya Women, Rafiki, and all that. Then there are also institutions which are also deposit taking. Of course, the SACCOs are regulated by SASRA, and of course, there are a lot of other regulators. But for us, our kind of operation is non-regulated. That means we are not under the central bank yet, and because of that, I think it's an advantage and also a disadvantage. A disadvantage because sometimes the kind of pricing and the kind of competition is not well regularized. I could call it. So the challenge that we have in the market is because there are many players. I can say there are many players in the market. Then people are using different standards, of course, of terms of assessment, because it's a competition. It's cutthroat. Everyone wants to do their best to be able to get to the clients and to be able to offer their best service. So that is good enough so that it improves innovation, because you have to be innovative enough to be able to stay afloat and stay on the market. But I also look at it on the other side and say that because of the non-regulation, sometimes we find a bit some kind of products. People normally would think that we are what is called predatory lenders. Predatory lenders in the terms of that I look for someone who is vulnerable. When you are most vulnerable, then I give you a loan, so that I look at actually targeting your asset, which should not be the case. And that is some of the ethics that we need to look at. For example, from our side, we said, okay, we don't want to target anyone's asset. We are not giving you a loan because we've seen that you have a nice Toyota Corolla, or even Premium, and you want 100,000, and I give you 100,000 because I know your premium is about 800,000. So when I get it, then I hope that you default, because that time you're very vulnerable. So that it's not like I'm hoping you default on the loan so that you get the facility. No. We just needed some more regularized playing ground, not necessarily from the regulators, but also in terms of a fair practice, so that people can be able to accept the kind of products that you offer. Because many people would still think that we are Shylocks. We are not Shylocks. Some people would think that we are predatory lenders. We are not. We want to play in a fair, organized way in terms of giving out our products. The other thing I wanted to mention is about there was the reduced corporate tax that was there during the Corona times. But I think we really need to work on the kind of taxes that are there for institutions like ours, and also generally the SMEs, because for us, we're still a micro, we are still an SME. We have still not hit the 50 million, and they say the 50 million. So we are still not that very big to be able to be called a medium enterprise organization, or to be able to, because the cost of accessing funds in this country is fairly high. Someone did the analysis and found that 99% of access to funds is mostly through banks. While in other countries, you can also be able to access funds through the capital market. So a bit of that mismatch ensures that our cost of capital is fairly high. For someone to give me money, so for me to loan it out again, because I have to get some money from some people, so they'll be able to charge this at a premium, because we are still not under regulation, so it charge me at a premium to be able to loan it out. So it makes our overall loans a bit pricey. And if there was a way in which institutions like ours could be able to access the capital markets, to be able to access funds for innovation, or for different products, or for particular products at a much lower rate, and that will be able to help us a lot. And a lot of the last thing I wanted to mention in terms of the constraint is about, in terms of growth and expansion. There are institutions that are supporting SMEs, and I think a number of them are existing. Of course, I want to mention even the World Bank institution of IFC, which gives credit facilities to institutions to be able to grow. A lot of people are still very hesitant in terms of giving money to financial institutions like ours. So it's something that I think maybe because they're still not very sure, but I think being in the market for 3 or 4 years, it made us to understand that yes, we can still be able to access these funds and be able to grow businesses, because sometimes giving money directly to business, we take the risk of giving the money to the businesses which we know will definitely improve and grow well, because it's like we're getting some bulk of money, then we split it into smaller units that is able to be handled by different businesses that they can be able to grow with. With that, I think it's important for institutions to also develop financial institutions like us. I mean, there should be some kind of facility available at a good rate for those of us who want to break the money into smaller units to support other businesses. I think that is something that should be available, so that it also enables us to grow, because we are also supporting a lot of businesses to grow. Right now, we have a portfolio of about 1,000 clients. So most of these 1,000 clients, maybe about 800 of them are in business, maybe 200 are the ones in emergency or salary. So a lot of these businesses are growing because of the small facilities that we give them, the 10,000, the 50,000, then the 40,000, or the 100,000 that we give. Our average loan size is about 100,000. So there are most of the people are taking between 50 and 100,000. And then you can see that there is progress with the little money that someone is having. So it's something that I can also mention, that in terms of the constraint, there are not so many institutions that give business to financial institutions like us to be able to give out as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The last part, although you mentioned it, how do you deal with because most of the challenges startup business have and microfinance institutions have is the rigidity of the collateral security. So how do you intend to make it more customer friendly?
Thank you. I know that is one of the biggest challenges that SMEs face. You know, I was telling someone that like other places, let me say like in West Africa or in Rwanda, where you have a fixed place of residence. So even if I give you a loan without much security, I know, because people may mostly pay rent for a full year in advance. I can still be able to get you tomorrow because you cannot leave your rent behind. But in our situation, because our system, or especially in Nairobi, the rent is paid on a monthly basis. So you can be able to pay rent and move out the following days. So in terms of us securing our facilities, there are people who insist on the logbooks and title deeds, which of course we do as well. But we also created a smaller category of 2 categories that would cover for the micro and the small and medium enterprises. What we call the micro loan, or we call it in our term market day loan. We target those who are in regular business, the consumables, those who are the mamambogas. You have potatoes you're bringing from Narok, or you have cabbages from Kinangop, or you have fish from Usenge in Nyanza. So those are those particular businesses that bring a lot of, especially the food items and a lot of that thing that people consume regularly. What we require from you is you need to be in a group. You need to be in a group that has at least 10 or 15 members that is already existing. Why we look at a group which is already existing? We don't want a group that is started purposely to take money from us. I think we learned this from the experience of the Youth Fund and the Women Enterprise Fund. Those funds were very useful for those who wanted to startups, because it will take you through a lot of trainings. I think it was between 8 weeks and 12 weeks. And even Equity Bank had a bit of that. So all that was to help you to be able to develop so that you understand the business skills, business cycles, the reporting, bookkeeping, and all that. So that at the end of the day, you realize that the kind of business you are engaged in is generating profit for you, and you can be able to take a loan and pay it back and still remain with something at the end of the day. So we want groups which are already existing because they have gone through a lot of trainings, they've understood one another so well. So we still advance facilities for those kind of groups, but not a group as a group loan. It's the security is mostly the group members who guarantee you. Of course, you still need to stay in a particular place that you can be able to. Then mostly we want those who are in similar businesses. So if you are fishmongers, then I want all of you to be dealing in fish. Or if you're dealing in potatoes, I want most of you to be dealing in potatoes. Or if you are bringing cabbages from different parts of the country, then mostly you deal with that. Or you are in onions and all that. So something more similar. Or if you are livestock traders, then most of you are dealing in livestock trading. Or if you are in cereals, then most of you are dealing in cereals, whether you are getting it from Uganda or Tanzania or somewhere. But most of you are dealing in more similar things because you understand each other. You can be able to support each other better. Then the second category, we call it the SME loans. The SME loans are the ones that we actually target, because the issue of collateral is still a very big issue. But as I said earlier on in a part of this discussion, is that the growth of any business would actually be shown when someone has some asset that I can be able to count that I started with nothing, but now I have this and this and this. So even without showing me your bank statement or your M-Pesa statement, if I see that you through your business, you've bought some assets, not necessarily a vehicle or a house or a land or some land somewhere in Nairobi, and I see some business asset. For example, you have a business asset. For example, if you're someone who is dealing with fresh produce and you bought a freezer to help you keep your stock to last slightly longer, or you've bought or you have a lathing machine somewhere, or you have something, those kind of business assets, they might not be very costly, but for the 20 or 30,000 or 50,000 that it is worth, it can count for something. So we actually look at those particular business assets that can count for something, that can help you to be part of the collateral that we require from you. So we've made it a bit more flexible in terms of getting the business assets as part of the collateral that you look at, because we'll be able to charge this through the chattel mortgage. Then we can be able to finance you based on that, because our loans are also very short term. So we look at it in that, because we are bridging finance, we give you a loan for a very short period of less than 6 months or with less than 1 year. So with that, you can be able to rearrange yourself. And one of the things which we are very happy that we are doing is to be able to help you, because our loan is not the final loan that you should be having. You should be also working towards getting slightly more cheaper loans, especially arranging that each of our members should belong to a cooperative society or a SACCO, so that you get the regular loans for your development work from the SACCO. But for working capital, you can still be able to access for us. So anytime you think of working capital for the short-term finance, you look for us. But if you want something big, which requires something a bit lower on your pocket, for like you pay for 48 months or 72 months, then you probably need a SACCO loan for that. But we want all our clients to understand that we want to take them through the process, so that at the end of the day, we don't just want you to be taking our money, then you've returned our money and your business is the way it was. So what? That is not really our aim. Our aim is to see that you grow, because when you grow is also when we grow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I want us to go to the comment section. We can go through a few questions and comments. William says, good evening. Amos Mori says, watching online from Mukuru Kwanjenga. Thank you. Fidels, okay. Hiyo yake siwezi soma. Sawa. Maureen anasema, I'm here following. Thank you so much. Odingo says, I'm following. Jay says, good work, CEO. Thank you so much. Victor anasema following, Mr. CEO. Ali anasema following from Wahoo, China. Thank you. Peter Otieno anasema that's a good stuff. Thank you. Juma says great information. We need more of this, not just politics all the time. Okay, yeah, we had told you that on Wednesday we will be bringing new topical issues, and we want to maintain that. Thank you so much. Teams anasema do they have credit hawkers who don't have fixed location? I think you will respond to that. Do you have credit hawkers?
No, at the moment, the way we operate is that we have our staff who go to visit clients at where they do their businesses. So we work in a way that the business person, even though it might not be a fixed building and all that, because some of them are in the open air market, but probably within that open air market, you should have a fixed place where we regularly get you. Because if I go to Koba, for example, I know I have a couple of clients there, then I'll know this particular place belongs to so and so. So I'll go directly to that person because that is her regular place for trading. Then of course our officers are out between it's only Monday and Friday they're in the office, but on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday they're out to visit the clients at their premises. So the movement of the staff is, or even the people will have as other sales agents will mostly through the 3 days of the week to be able to visit the clients at their residences or at their places of business. Thank you.
Okay. Wema anasema the information is great. You need to bring such great brains more and more. Thank you so much. We will do that. Wema also says, how do they support business beyond giving credit? Do you support business beyond giving credit? Is there any other thing you do?
Yes, we do. Actually, that is what I was saying. It's part of our DNA. We want to see that the business grows, not just because I gave you money. No, if I give a client money, maybe 100,000, and you return it with 105,000 or 110,000, I'll still not be happy because you've given me the money and I come to your business and it is the way it was before I gave you the money. So that means I've not made a difference in the kind of business that you're doing. Then that means the money did not help much. We want to see that all the businesses that we support, or those who seek financing from us, make some positive impact for their lives and also for their businesses. I want to see a situation where we've given a facility, then as I said, that if you look at it in terms of the accounting terms, the balance sheet, if you are worth maybe say 200,000 that time, then now you are worth 300,000 because we give you a facility that enabled you to get more business, or to be able to deliver some products, or to be able to make higher sales, so that even if you return for us the money, then your net worth has gone up. So we do a lot of trainings, even post-loan, we do a lot of trainings to be able to help our clients understand the whole business cycle, understand the issue of how to pitch sales. A lot of that is to support the business to be able to grow further and further. So it's mostly about businesses. And also, the last thing which we have not done, which we had also intended to do, but we still want to see if we can be able to do it even later this year or from next year, is on what is called business networking. What we realize is that a couple of our clients are involved in different businesses, and then these businesses are kind of linked, yet they don't know each other. So what we were thinking of is, if you have a client who is dealing in transport, like there's a time I think I encountered a gentleman who borrowed from us and is dealing with transport. In fact, occasionally he has even things that is sending to Uganda, Kampala, or even to Rwanda, then he comes back. And yet I also had, the following day, I had clients who were looking for facility to be able to get eggs from Uganda. So I was even thinking, why don't I link these two people so that they'll still be able to benefit on their own, but at least we know that we've done our part in terms of linking them in terms of their business. One is doing transport, the other one is doing the actual goods that is coming from Uganda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Levi says, I'm following. Thank you, Levi. Geoffrey says, Lee Madhara. Ameongea lugha fulani hiyo. Maybe he wanted you to hear in the mother tongue. I don't understand that. Okay, hello, this is great. And that's Mercy. Jay says, ask the CEO, which business can be recommended for a youth with capital of about 200K based on his experience?
No, I think in terms of business, it should not be the capital.
I understand his mind. There's this guy who has capital, yes. The problem is not capital, but the problem is identifying the business.
Is where to put the money. Yeah. So as I was saying, business idea should not be driven because the money is there. It should be driven with your passion. What do you really want? What is it that you are passionate about that you can be able to wake up at 4 o'clock and do, and sleep at midnight for the following day and still do that every other day? Business, you will not have leave, you will not have any free time, you will not have weekends probably. So is it something that you really want? Because I can tell you, go open a butchery, because you'll open a butchery with that amount. You can still open a butchery in most of our estates. Yeah, you pay for the rent, the paint and all that, the red paint and everything, the glass, whatever, and go to Njiru and get the meat. But then, is it something that is in your passion that you want to be a butcher? Is it something that you really, really want to do? Or you open a saloon? Is it something that you really, really want to do? So a lot of these things depend actually on your passion, but also the location and the kind of business. What is it that you're thinking of? For example, there are places that you cannot open any kind of business. There are certain sections of this country that, for example, someone opening, I'm told like Kijabe is an alcohol-free town. So, or even if it is there, it is very, very minimal. So you don't want to go and open a wines and spirit business in Kijabe town, for example. There are certain things that you also look at in terms of this kind of business that I want to do. Which is the best location that it can thrive in? What is it that I'm really, really interested in that I want to do? What do you have a passion for? And are there customers for whatever I'm going to sell? In fact, it should even come from you and look at yourself and say, what would people really need at this time? And I think those who are innovative and creative enough normally want to answer those questions, because it is what people really want, what people need, that you'd want to sell. Is it you can still be able to sit back at home and sell something? For example, the people who are saying, okay, Airbnb, it was started because people were having their houses, they're having some empty rooms within their houses, yet there were people who are looking for accommodation facilities in those particular towns or in those particular areas. So someone thought, why would someone be looking for a facility? Let me say, during the conferences, that there was one of the conferences that was here in Nairobi, and most of the hotels were booked. So you have 100,000 people descending in Nairobi, and maybe the capacity of the hotels or all the hotel rooms in Nairobi is probably around 70 or 80,000. Where will the 30,000 people go? So you start thinking, okay, what kind of solution do I want to offer so that everyone is covered in the end? Okay, those who have extra rooms, extra beds, can be able to charge something for those extra beds or extra rooms and get something out of it. Then, of course, boom, then that is a concept that you want to pursue. So I'll still encourage you, if you have 200,000, look at all the possibilities. Get to online, think of something that you can be able to do, because I don't want a situation where you form part of the statistics, because the statistics are also not very good for SMEs. SMEs, the micro are those who have or get a turnover below 1 million. Then, of course, small is 1 million to 5 million. Then micro is 5 million to 50 million. We don't want a situation where you are part of the statistics which indicate that over 2 million businesses collapse in Kenya every year. People start businesses, but they never see their first birthday. That is around 89% of all businesses that are started in Kenya collapse within the first 1 year. And the ones that survive, half of them again fall in the second year. Only a very small percentage reach the 5th year. So that's something that you can be able to think of in 10 years. So will my business be existing in the next 10 years? Or if I don't do this business now, how can I be able to modify it so that in the next 10 years, I'm still existing and I'm still in business?
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that comprehensive answer. I have one or two more questions. Bernard Abok anasema, at your level, do you offer long-term asset financing?
No, at the moment, we don't offer the long-term financing as we are. That is something that we are working on. As I mentioned earlier on, most of our financing is still on the bridging finance, but we'll be able to get the more long-term ones in the near future.
Okay, that is straight. Chilo says, great, rich. The discussion is rich. Thank you. Odingo says, ask the CEO which business can be. Oh, I think that is repeated. He has answered that. Oburo says, can a registered welfare group get a loan from Koba for development purpose?
No, not at all. Because we finance individuals, even if you are in a group, but we finance individuals who are running businesses. So unless the business is a limited liability company, we will not finance a welfare association. So that is outside our mandate at the moment.
Okay, that is well answered. David Kiprono, following life here at Baringo, I have a plot, but I am unable to build. Do they offer loans for Kujenga? My age is below 25.
That's great, David. I think you've done a very good job for yourself to have a plot at that age. I think many of us really think that is something that is worth commending on. The only thing is that, as I mentioned, our loans are very short term. So what you'll need to do is maybe get a regular finance. If you are stuck, or if you're not able to complete your project as scheduled, then that is where we can be able to come in. But at the moment, we don't give you money to start up, because we'll give you the money to start up, and of course, it will become a burden to you later on. So we want to advise that get slightly cheaper finance, work through it. If you're stuck, so that maybe you've done the plots, you need just to finish, then people move into the plots to be able to generate for you revenue. Because you're looking at it between now and the next 3 months, if I can get a facility to complete my house, and then people move in and I start earning some rent, then that is something that we'll be able to discuss with you. But I think I want to still commend you for having a plot by the age of 25. That is a very positive step. Thank you.
Okay, Bernard Abok, another question. Invoice discounting at what rate? Anauliza invoice discounting at what rate?
Okay, we are still in discussion about that particular product. We are still not doing invoice discounting or import discounting or LPO financing as LPO financing. What we are working on is that it's the regular loan that we'll give you, but it's based on particular security that we can be able to discuss with you based on the security and the other requirements that we have to be able to give you a rate. But we don't do invoice discounting at the moment, or even import financing at the moment. It's something that we are discussing, that you can be able to have beginning from January or February next year. Thank you. Are you there?
Today for the launch of the Stawi Credit Facility. This launch today marks what I believe is an important milestone in my administration's effort to remove the constraints to the growth of micro, small and medium-sized enterprises here in Kenya. I really do want to take this opportunity also to thank the Kenya Bankers Association, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Cooperatives, and our Kenya Central Bank for organizing this event, which is showcasing several financing innovations that banks have developed to respond to the need of micro, small, and medium enterprises. The micro, small, and medium enterprises are without doubt the lifeblood of our economy. This sector accounts for more than 80% of all businesses in Kenya and creates around 75% of all our jobs. Equally important, because of their broad reach in providing employment, especially for vulnerable groups, for women, for our youth, micro, small, and medium enterprises are key contributors to a very broad-based and inclusive economic development model. But as we all know, micro, small, and medium enterprises also face several challenges, which ultimately reduce their competitiveness and constrain their growth. About 85% of more than 7 million micro, small, and medium enterprises are ultimately unlicensed. And about 90% of our startups do not survive more than 3 years. Indeed, as a result, their contribution to our country's GDP is only about 30%. It is worth pointing that if we were to realize the full potential of this sector, its contribution to the national cake, as well as to national employment, would be much more. Recognizing the potential of this sector to transform the lives of many Kenyans, we have made a deliberate decision to prioritize the development of micro, small, and medium enterprises as part of our Big Four agenda. The focus on agriculture, housing, manufacturing being key. For example, the leather common manufacturing facility at Karioko, now complete.
Okay, I just wanted to capture that. There's a facility the president was launching somewhere November 2019. Stawi, something Stawi. How viable is it for young people to access credit? Is it working?
I think they got in some bit of headwinds. I don't think it is very active at the moment. Maybe it was disrupted because of the COVID disruption sometime early last year, but also because I think the kind of structure that they were looking forward to probably didn't work out. I think there's also a bit of politics into how it was supposed to work out or run, or who was supposed to be the funders or the backers of that, the STAWI. There was the issue about, is it KCB or is it NCBA and all that. So it was a very good and noble idea because the pricing of the loans was going to be below market rates, which was fairly good and I think easy friendly. But also, if you listen to the part of the comment from the president earlier on, was that the businesses are not licensed. So one of the things that they were looking forward to is to have a lot of businesses which are not formal. Let me call it formal and informal. The businesses which are informal to be able to get into more formal environment. When you are in more formal, maybe you are licensed, then there are lots of other requirements that you can be able to meet so that you can access these facilities. The whole thing was about to be able to get more businesses. I think over 90% of the businesses in Kenya are very informal. Like you have your own kiosk or you're running your own business. It is not registered anywhere. It is not licensed anywhere. You're just running your business. So they wanted more of that to be in the formal sector. And being in the formal sector also has a bit of requirements, the legal requirements that will enable business access more funds, access more opportunities, access a bigger base than they have. The only thing is that some people are very scared of that. But if you ask me personally, as Odak, what would I want out of this? I'd say definitely more business should be in the more formal sector than the informal, because in the more formal sector, you can be able to access more opportunities, more networking opportunities, more businesses, more credit facilities. Because if you walk in, even if you could be trading and having your money under the mattress or keeping your money on M-Pesa, and you've been doing like about 500,000 or 1,000,000 shilling, if you walk to any bank, probably they'll not want to look at that. They want to look what is your bank account saying. So many of the informal businesses are not in the are not in the formal sector as such. So they need to move that a bit to the formal sector. And I think that was the whole issue about TAWI, to get as many people as possible to the formal sector. Of course, many people are scared of the issue about the tax and all that, because once you are in the formal sector, of course, there'll be the tax issue. If you are not a corporate which pays 30% of the tax, you'll be paying the turnover tax of 1%. I think it was 3% reduced to 1% on the gross sales per month. So that was going to be a very tedious thing for a lot of SMEs, especially for someone who has been earning all his money and keeping all the money for himself without paying any tax. Of course, it's a requirement for all of us as a citizen of Kenya to be able to contribute to, when we are putting everyone to account and hold anyone accountable. So also our contribution to support them, the things that work in this country, then we should also be forming part of that. That is on my personal view and not the view of the company, but I want to say that we really want to support businesses that are more formal than informal, because the more formal you are, the more structured the negotiations or the discussions can take. And I think that is what TAWI was aiming to achieve. But I think at the background, there was the issue about who was going to be the key player. Is it NCBA or KCB, or there are other things that were going to be in play in terms of how it was going to be structured. I think that is what maybe has delayed it, but it was something that was really going to push a lot of businesses up there, because if you get some financing, and it was going to be better than what the youth fund and the women fund had achieved, because those two funds, or even the other funds that have been there, have been funds which are more, let me call it, social in nature, because the money is given, you are in a group, they take you through the trainings and all that, but the money that comes back eventually is not what you really expect, because it's mostly not for the people who took the money was not really for businesses. Very few people took money for the business, even if they are in a group and you've gone through all the training, but very few of them took it as business. So the challenges within the SME sector, beyond the access to credit or financial facilities, there's the issue about the management style and the structure, the kind of business someone has, or the kind of competition that you encounter and all that. So a lot of that whole failed to make it through. So TAWI, as I conclude on this topic, was a very good concept, and I think if it can be revived, it can really help a lot of businesses to prosper. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe the last thing is you can share either your website information or contacts for anybody who wants to reach you. Just to recap for those who may want to follow up on the discussion.
Okay, I'll definitely share that. Our contacts are on phone. We are on 089 222 122 or 0782 222 082 222 122. Our email, I think I'll also want to share our email, is info@Koba Capital. info@kobacapital.co.ke. info@kobacapital.co.ke. Website is www.kobacapital.co.ke. Then we have a Facebook page, is www.facebook.com/Koba Capital Ltd. Then we also have Twitter. We are at Koba Capital. Then we are on Instagram. Is also at Koba Capital. Then we are also on LinkedIn, so just look for us on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was Odak, a man with the same name twice. Odak Richard is the CEO of Koba Capital. He was sharing information to do with building SME using credit facility. I hope you are more wiser than if you came. You have learned one or two things that can help you in terms of making financial decision when you want to look for capital using credit facility. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks everyone who participated, and thanks so much for hosting me. Nimeshukuru sana, asante.
Amen. So that we come to an end of our discussion tonight.